Ambassador Kira Puddle stood at the observation deck of the Galactic Alliance headquarters, watching the massive warships of the Drachnid fleet perform their ceremonial maneuvers. Each vessel gleamed with polished armor plating, their weapon systems proudly displayed, a stark contrast to Earth's more modest vessels that emphasized efficiency over intimidation. 15 years after humanity's admission to the Alliance, they were still fighting for respect. The Alliance's warrior species regarded humans as oddities at best, cowards at worst. Humanity's preference for diplomatic solutions and defensive technology drew mockery from races that valued aggressive displays of strength. Ambassador, the Council awaits. The voice belonged to her assistant, James Kumar, his dark eyes conveying unspoken support. They both knew what was coming. Another session of thinly veiled contempt from the Alliance's military leadership. The council chamber stretched upward like a cathedral of steel and crystal, its circular tiers filled with representatives from 30 species. The warrior races, the Drachnid, Voraxians, and Cathuri, occupy the highest positions, literally looking down on the lesser species below. High Commander Thrax of the Drachnid forces dominated the session, his scaled form towering over the podium. Once again, we face human reluctance to contribute meaningful military assets to Alliance defense, his voice boomed. Their ships hide behind shield technology, while true warriors face their enemies directly. Kira maintained her composure, though her fingers tightened slightly on her datapad. High Commander, Earth's contribution to Alliance defense includes advanced shield systems that have saved countless lives, early warning networks that... We speak of warriors, not technicians, interrupted General Kex of the Voraxians, mandibles clicking in derision. Where are your battle fleets? Your shock troops? Your planet-breaker weapons? Humanity believes in preservation, not destruction. Kira responded evenly. Our military doctrine emphasizes. The chamber's emergency lights suddenly flashed crimson. A holographic display materialized in the chamber center, showing the outer rim sector. 3 Alliance outposts simply vanished. Report, demanded Council Leader Ven, his crystalline form pulsing with alarmed colors. A Cathari tactical officer rushed in, fur bristling. 3 outposts in the outer rim, completely destroyed. No distress signals, no survivors, no warning. The chamber erupted in shouts and demands for immediate military response. Kira remained silent, studying the tactical display. Something about the attack pattern tickled her memory, a strategy she'd studied in Earth's military history. The combined fleets will crush these cowards, Thrax declared. We will show them the meaning of true warfare. But Kira saw something the others missed. The attack pattern wasn't random. It was precise, calculated, testing. She accessed her datapad, pulling up historical records from Earth's conflicts. The similarity was striking. This wasn't just an attack, it was reconnaissance in force. Council Leader, she spoke up, her voice cutting through the chaos. I request permission to share an analysis. The human wishes to advise on warfare, sneered General Kex. Perhaps suggest we negotiate with the enemy. I wish to prevent a catastrophic mistake, Kira replied firmly. These attack patterns match historical scenarios where aggressive response led to disaster. The enemy is testing our reactions, learning our responses. A direct military confrontation is exactly what they want. The chamber fell silent, more from surprise at her boldness than agreement. Council Leader Ven studied her for a moment. Proceed, Ambassador. Kira projected her analysis. The precision of these strikes, the lack of warning, the complete destruction. These aren't signs of traditional warfare. This enemy is studying us, adapting to our defenses. Each attack serves multiple purposes: gathering intelligence, testing responses, analyzing our technology. You suggest we do nothing, Thrax demanded. I suggest we think before we react, Kira countered. Humanity's history is filled with examples where superior forces were defeated because they responded predictably to provocations. Whatever this enemy is, they're smart enough to destroy our outposts without warning. They're smart enough to leave no survivors. Are they also smart enough to be counting on our predictable response? The council chamber remained silent as her words sank in. For the first time, some of the warrior races looked at the human ambassador with something other than contempt. Council leader Ven's crystalline form pulsed thoughtfully. "Your analysis has merit," he admitted. "What would humanity recommend?" Before Kira could respond, the emergency lights flashed again. This time, 5 more outposts had vanished. The game had begun, and humanity's so-called weakness might be the Alliance's only hope for survival. As the warrior races called for blood, Kira knew that the coming conflict would test more than their strength. It would test their wisdom, their adaptability, and their willingness to learn from the very species they had dismissed as cowards. The question was, would they learn fast enough to survive? The Galactic Alliance war room hummed with tense activity as tactical displays tracked the Drachnid battle fleet's approach toward the enemy's last known position. High Commander Thrax stood proudly, his scaled armor gleaming under the holographic lights as his mighty armada, over 300 warships strong, moved to engage. Ambassador Kira Patel watched from her observer's station, her warnings ignored in the rush for glorious battle. The Drachnid and Varaxian commanders had dismissed her concerns about the enemy's adaptive capabilities. Now she could only document what she feared would be a catastrophic mistake. "Enemy vessels detected," announced the tactical officer. The holographic display revealed strange, geometric shapes that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Configuration unknown. No match in Alliance database. "Irrelevant," Thrax declared. "Launch the attack. Show these cowards the might of true warriors." The Drachnid fleet opened fire, their energy weapons painting space with brilliant colors. The strange enemy ships made no attempt to evade. Instead, they changed. Their metallic surfaces rippled, absorbed the attacks, and began to glow. "Energy readings are increasing," James reported from his station, frowning at his instruments. "They're not just absorbing the attacks, they're learning from them." Before anyone could process this information, the enemy ships responded. They fired back using exact replicas of Drachnid weapons, but improved, refined, more powerful. Drachnid shields, designed to withstand their own weapons, failed against these enhanced versions. "Impossible," Thrax roared as the reports flooded in. Ship after ship reported shield failures, weapon malfunctions, and system crashes. The enemy wasn't just fighting back, they were adapting to and improving upon every tactic the Drachnid fleet employed. "Pull back," Kira urged, abandoning protocol in the face of disaster. "They're using your own strength against you. Every attack makes them stronger." But it was too late. The enemy ships had completely surrounded the Drachnid fleet. What happened next defied explanation. Metallic tendrils extended from the geometric ships, latching onto disabled Alliance vessels. Rather than destroying them, the enemy began absorbing them. Technology, weapons, and materials were stripped away and incorporated into the enemy's own forms. In less than an hour, the pride of the Alliance fleet was reduced to scattered debris and floating hulks. High Commander Thrax stood in stunned silence as the casualty reports poured in. 280 ships lost. Over 50,000 warriors dead or missing. The enemy ships, now larger and more complex after absorbing Alliance technology, simply vanished, leaving behind a graveyard of broken vessels and broken pride. In the aftermath, the Alliance Council convened an emergency session. The chamber that had once rung with calls for glorious battle was now silent with shock and fear. "These beings," Council leader Ven began, his crystalline form dim with concern, "they do not fight like anything we have encountered. They do not seek victory through strength of arms, but through adaptation. They're weaponized evolution," Kira explained, projecting her analysis. "Each encounter makes them stronger. They don't just defeat their enemies, they learn from them, improve upon them, and incorporate their strengths. General Kex shuddered nervously. Then how can they be fought? If every attack makes them stronger, if every weapon we use becomes their weapon. Perhaps, Kira suggested carefully, we need to stop thinking about how to fight them and start thinking about how to outsmart them. You have a suggestion, Ambassador? Council Leader Ven asked, all previous condescension gone from his tone. Humanity has faced adaptive challenges before, though never on this scale. In our history, when brute force failed, we learned to think differently. These beings adapt to patterns, to direct attacks, to traditional military responses. So we need to be unpredictable. We need to be creative. You speak in riddles, Thrax growled, though his usual arrogance was muted by recent losses. What exactly do you propose? Kira brought up historical data from Earth. Throughout human history, seemingly invincible forces were defeated not by superior strength, but by superior thinking. The mighty Persian army at Thermopylae, the British Empire in the American Revolution, the concept of asymmetric warfare. She highlighted specific tactical analyses. These entities expect us to fight like warriors, directly, predictably, with overwhelming force. So we don't give them what they expect. We change the rules of engagement. We make ourselves impossible to predict or adapt to. And how do we do that? Asked General Kex. Before Kira could respond, the emergency alerts flashed again. This time, the enemy ships had appeared simultaneously at 12 different Alliance worlds. The attacks were no longer isolated incidents. This was a full invasion. We're out of time for debate, Kira declared. The Alliance needs to decide. Will you keep fighting this war the way you always have, or are you ready to try humanity's way? The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The mighty warrior races of the Alliance faced a choice: cling to their traditional ways and face extinction, or swallow their pride and learn from the very species they had dismissed as cowards. The next attack would determine whether they had the wisdom to make the right choice. The Alliance's primary military command center had transformed in the weeks following the Drachnid fleet's destruction. Where once stood proud warrior commanders, now hunched desperate strategists studying endless data streams of failed engagements. Lieutenant Commander Raj Verma, Earth's top tactical analyst, moved through the crowd of alien officers, his footsteps echoing in the unusually quiet chamber. Another defensive line has fallen, a Cathari officer reported, fur bristling with stress. The Varaxian Third Fleet attempted to ambush them with phase-shifted weapons. The entities, they simply adapted, incorporated the technology, made it better. Raj studied the tactical display, watching the enemy's expansion pattern. In 2 months, they had absorbed technology from a dozen different species, growing stronger with each encounter. Traditional military forces were worse than useless. They were actively making the enemy more powerful. Commander Verma, Council Leader Ven's crystalline form, pulsed with urgency. Ambassador Patel speaks highly of your tactical innovations. Please tell us you have something, anything, that might help. Raj took a deep breath. What he was about to propose would sound like madness to the warrior races. We stop fighting them entirely. The chamber erupted in protests. High Commander Thrax, still nursing his wounds from the previous defeat, slammed his scaled fist on a console. Surrender. This is your human wisdom. Not surrender, Raj clarified, activating the main holographic display. We changed the entire paradigm of engagement. Look at their pattern. They expect direct military response. They adapt to weapons, to tactics, to technology. But what if we gave them nothing to adapt to? He brought up his analysis. These entities are like a complex learning algorithm. They identify patterns, adapt to them, improve upon them. But any learning system can be overwhelmed by too much random, contradictory input. Speak plainly, human, General Kex demanded. We overload their adaptation mechanisms, Raj explained. Instead of attacking with weapons, We hit them with chaos, unpredictable patterns, contradictory data, random variables they can't process. We don't try to destroy them. We try to confuse them. He projected a detailed tactical simulation. Small, fast ships with no weapons at all. Each one broadcasting different, conflicting signals. Some appearing damaged, others appearing powerful. Some running away, others charging forward. No pattern, no consistency. Nothing they can adapt to because there's nothing concrete to learn. The alien commanders stared at the simulation in confusion. This isn't warfare, Thrax protested. This is madness. Exactly, Raj smiled. They can't adapt to madness. They can't improve upon chaos. Their greatest strength, their ability to learn and adapt, becomes their greatest weakness when we give them too much contradictory information to process. He brought up more tactical data. We also use their adaptation against them. Feed them corrupted technical data. Let them absorb ships with contradictory systems that conflict with each other. Make their need to adapt and improve work against them. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This wasn't the glorious combat the warrior races lived for. This was something else entirely. Warfare transformed into a form of complex psychological manipulation. You want us to fight without fighting. Council leader Ven mused, his crystalline structure shifting thoughtfully. To win without victory in the traditional sense. I want us to survive, Raj corrected. These entities beat us at conventional warfare because that's what they're designed for. So we stop playing their game. We make them play ours. And if this fails, General Kex demanded, then we're no worse off than we are now, Raj pointed out. But consider this. Every conventional military attack has made them stronger. Every traditional tactic has failed. What do we have to lose by trying something completely different? The emergency alerts flashed again. The entities had breached another defensive line, absorbing 3 more species worth of military technology. Their advance was accelerating. Time grows short, Council Leader Ven announced. Commander Verma, you have authorization to implement your strategy. But be warned, if this fails, there may not be another chance. Raj nodded grimly. I'll need volunteers, ship's crews willing to try something completely new. And most importantly, I'll need the warrior races to trust human instincts, even when everything we do seems to go against traditional military doctrine. High Commander Thrax stepped forward, his proud bearing somewhat diminished by recent defeats. I volunteer my remaining ships. We have tried warfare the warrior way. Perhaps it is time to try warfare the human way. As the other commanders began to volunteer forces, Raj began detailed tactical briefings. They had one chance to prove that humanity's cowardly approach to conflict might be the galaxy's only hope for survival. The real question was, could the proud warrior races of the Alliance adapt to human tactics faster than the entities could adapt to conventional warfare? The answer would determine the fate of all spacefaring civilization. Operation Pandemonium launched with little fanfare. No grand fleet formations, no stirring speeches about glory and honor. Instead, 300 small ships, a mix of human vessels and modified alien craft, scattered across space like seeds in the wind. Lieutenant Commander Raj Verma coordinated from the newly established Chaos Control, a name that made the warrior races deeply uncomfortable. The traditional command center had been transformed, its military displays replaced by seemingly random patterns of data and movement. First contact in Sector 7, reported James Kumar. Entities are responding exactly as predicted. They're trying to analyze our ship configurations. On the main display, the small Alliance vessels executed their carefully planned random maneuvers. Some appeared to flee in panic, broadcasting false distress signals. Others charged forward aggressively, only to veer away at the last moment. Each ship transmitted different, contradictory data about its capabilities and systems. The entities, faced with this chaos, did exactly what Raj had predicted. They tried to adapt to everything simultaneously. Their liquid metal forms shifted and changed as they attempted to process the conflicting information. Phase 2, Raj ordered. The Alliance ships now released clouds of specially designed nanites, not to attack the entities, but to flood their sensor systems with garbage data. Each cloud contained different, contradictory information about Alliance technology, defenses, and capabilities. They're trying to absorb and adapt to all of it, a Cathari officer observed, watching in fascination as the entities' forms began to shift erratically. Their forms, they're becoming unstable. Phase 3, Raj commanded. Now came the most dangerous part. Several ships, appearing damaged and vulnerable, allowed themselves to be caught by the entity's absorption tendrils. But these ships carried specially modified systems designed to conflict with each other, creating technological paradoxes that the entities couldn't resolve. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The entities that absorbed these ships began to malfunction, their perfect forms distorting as they tried to incorporate systems that were fundamentally incompatible. Some split apart, others froze in place, their adaptation mechanisms overwhelmed by contradictory imperatives. "It's working," High Commander Thrax whispered, watching as the mighty entities were reduced to chaos not by force, but by confusion. Within hours, the first battle was over. Not a single Alliance ship had fired a weapon, yet an entire cluster of entities had been rendered inert or forced to retreat, their adaptation mechanisms completely overwhelmed. But this was just the beginning. In the days that followed, the strategy evolved. Each encounter with the entities was different, preventing them from adapting to even the chaos itself. Sometimes ships would broadcast pure nonsense data. Other times, they would appear to be something completely different than what they were. The entities, programmed to analyze and adapt to their opponents, found themselves caught in an endless loop of trying to adapt to things that made no sense, that followed no pattern, that defied logical analysis. In the Alliance Command Center, even the warrior races began to understand the beauty of the human strategy. This wasn't cowardice. It was a completely different form of warfare, one that turned the enemy's greatest strength into a fatal weakness. "Your people," High Commander Thrax said to Raj during a tactical briefing. "You learned this from your own wars." "We learned it from everywhere," Raj explained. "From warfare, yes, but also from nature, from mathematics, from psychology. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our military might. It's our ability to think differently, to find new solutions to old problems." The entities, for the first time, began to retreat. The final battle for the galaxy took place not with massive fleets and weapons of mass destruction, but with an intricate dance of confusion and chaos. The entities, having gathered their remaining forces for one last push, found themselves facing something they had never encountered in millennia of conquest, an enemy they couldn't understand. Ambassador Kira Patel stood beside Lieutenant Commander Raj Verma in the Alliance Command Center, watching as Operation Pandemonium reached its culmination. The chamber, once dominated by displays of military might, now showed complex patterns of seemingly random movement and data. "All ships in position," James reported. "The entities have taken the bait." The remaining entity force, nearly 1,000 strong, pursued what they thought was a retreating Alliance fleet. But each retreating ship broadcast different, contradictory information. Some appeared to be powerful warships. Others seemed to be civilian vessels. Still others showed as completely alien configurations never before seen. "Execute final protocol," Raj ordered. The Alliance ships scattered in all directions, each following a different, unpredictable pattern. The entities, attempting to adapt to everything at once, began to split their forces, trying to chase multiple targets. "Now," Kira commanded. Hidden throughout the battlefield, specially modified probes activated, each broadcasting unique frequencies that interfered with the entity's communication networks. The liquid metal beings, their perfect coordination disrupted, began to move erratically. Phase 2, Raj called. The Alliance ships now released their final weapon, not bombs or missiles, but specially designed viral code sequences. Each sequence contained different, contradictory adaptation protocols. The entities, compelled by their basic programming to absorb and adapt to new information, took in these sequences. The effect was catastrophic. For the entities, their forms began to twist and distort as their adaptation mechanisms tried to incorporate protocols that fundamentally contradicted each other. Some grew to enormous size, others shrank to microscopic levels. Some froze in place, others spun in endless loops. "They're destroying themselves," High Commander Thrax observed with a mixture of awe and disbelief, without us firing a single shot. Within hours, it was over. The entity fleet, the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced, had been reduced to scattered, inert fragments. Not by violence, not by superior firepower, but by the very thing the warrior races had once mocked: human ingenuity. In the aftermath, the Alliance Council convened not for war planning, but for reflection. The chamber that had once been filled with derision for human cowardice now hummed with respectful discussion of human tactical innovation. "We were wrong," Council Leader Ven admitted, addressing Kira and Raj. "We mistook your different approach for weakness. We failed to understand that true strength comes in many forms. The humans have taught us," High Commander Thrax added, "that warfare is not just about weapons and willpower. It is about wisdom, about understanding, about finding new ways to overcome when the old ways fail." General Kex chittered in agreement. "Our military academies will need to be reformed. All warriors must now learn what humans have known all along, that the greatest victory is the one achieved through intelligence rather than force." Kira stepped forward. "The lesson isn't that the human way is superior," she said carefully. "The lesson is that every species, every approach, has value." The entities were defeated not just by human strategy, but by the combined efforts of all Alliance species willing to think differently. Raj nodded. "Our greatest strength isn't our technology, our weapons, or even our tactics. It's our ability to adapt, to change, to find new solutions. And most importantly, to learn from each other." The council chamber was silent for a moment as these words sank in. Then Council Leader Ven spoke again, his crystalline form glowing brightly. "Let it be recorded in all Alliance histories," he declared. "When the greatest threat to our civilization emerged, it was not the mighty warriors who saved us. It was those we once called cowards who showed us the true meaning of courage, the courage to think differently." As Kira looked around the chamber, she saw something she had never expected to see: warrior races looking at humans not with contempt, but with respect. Not because humans had proven stronger, but because they had proven wiser. The galaxy had changed forever. The line between cowardice and wisdom had been redrawn. And humanity, once dismissed as the weakest species in the Alliance, had found its true place among the stars, not as warriors, but as teachers of a better way. Perhaps that, Kira thought, was the greatest victory of all.